The UK, France and Germany are set to hold talks with the United States over the Iran nuclear agreement. France will be hosting these talks between the top diplomats of the European powers and the US Secretary of State, Antony Blinken. The four nations are coming together in a bid to salvage the 2015 deal on Tehran's nuclear program. The French foreign minister will meet his German and British counterparts in Paris, with Blinken joining via video conferencing. German Chancellor Angela Merkel has voiced her concerns in a rare telephonic conversation with the Iranian President Hassan Rouhani. Merkel expressed concern that Iran continues to fail to meet its obligations under the nuclear agreement. The United States and the European powers have urged Iran to return to full compliance. US President Joe Biden has already said that Washington will not lift the sanctions until Iran returns to complying with its commitments. The European nations are struggling to keep the deal alive after former US President Donald Trump pulled out of the agreement in 2018. Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei has said that it will only accept and react to positive action by other parties in the deal. Khamenei said that only a sanctions relief will make them return to the deal.
حرفایی زده میشه، وعده هایی داده میشه. من میخوام امروز فقط همین یک کلمه رو بگم ما حرف و وعده خوب خیلی شنیدیم که در عمل اون حرفها و وعده ها نقض شده و ضدش عمل شده. حرف فایده نداره، وعده فایده نداره. این دفعه فقط عمل از طرف مقابل ببینیم. ما هم عمل خواهیم کرد با حرف و وعده و اینکه ما این کار خواهیم کرد اون کار خواهیم کرد. جمهوری اسلامی این دفعه قانع نخواهد بود، مثل گذشته نخواهد.
According to the 2015 agreement between Iran and 6 major powers, sanctions against the Islamic Republic were lifted in exchange for it agreeing to not develop nuclear weapons. Biden's predecessor, Donald Trump, accused Iran of breaching the nuclear agreement and reimposed various kinds of sanctions. Since the US pullout, other members in the deal have been struggling to save it. Joining us on the broadcast is political analyst Saeed Mustafa. Thanks very much, Saeed, for speaking with us. The US says sanctions will not be lifted till Iran returns to compliance. Iran says it will only do so if the sanctions are lifted. How hopeful are you of this meeting taking place between the European countries and the United States now paving the way for this deal to be saved?
Hello, and thanks for having me. Well, the Europeans are not looking for any different way than the United States. They have proved not to be an independent actor under Donald Trump. They were complaining about Donald Trump's strategy towards Iran, but still they complied with the United States economic sanctions altogether. So they are, in practice, they are not following any different path. What they want, actually, is what Macron said under when President Trump was in office. He was asking Trump to join their plan for containing Iran in separate agreements. That was the original plan of containment, the strategy of containment that was put into practice by President Obama, and it's pursued by President Biden and the Europeans. All throughout the last 2 decades, there have been agreements between Iran and the United States or the European countries. Based on what U.S. and European officials have been saying, Iran has always been in compliance with these agreements, but the United States and Europeans have always defied. The reason is that Iran has been looking for a conflict resolution approach to resolve its problems with the United States and the Western countries. But they have proved to be only after containment of Iran's power. And this means containing Iran's nuclear industry, missile industry, regional power. They intend to weaken Iran. They are not looking for a conflict resolution. To do this, their main weapon of choice is threats as well as sanctions. And they use these sanctions in order to contain Iran's power, not for a conflict resolution approach. Therefore, they do everything possible to retain their sanctioning power, and they are not going to relinquish that, although they might be willing to give some small merits, like working on the index, but they are not going to let the sanctions be removed, and they've proven that.
Why, according to you, is it so important for these European countries to help revive this agreement in the first place?
Well, the JCPOA is part of the United States and the Western countries' containment strategy. It's step one. Step two is building on this JCPOA in order to contain Iran's power in the missile industry, the military industries, as well as the regional power of Iran. So they need Iran at the table, but at the same time, they need the sanctions also in order to keep the pressure on Iran. So they are not willing to relinquish the sanctioning power, but they want to keep this JCPOA. And Iran knows the play now. Maybe it was something new under Obama, but Tehran now knows how to play this well. So as long as they promise, as long as Biden promises to remove the sanction and rejoin the JCPOA, Tehran doesn't care. Tehran wants the United States to give up its weapon when it comes to the negotiating table. You may not carry your gun at the negotiating table and point it at the other party's head. You should give it up first and then go for talks. Also, let's remember that based on diplomatic norms and criteria, Iran was still in compliance with the nuclear deal. That's very important. And it is still in compliance. It has not exited the deal. Even 14 months after the United States exited the deal, Iran was in full compliance, and it is still complying with part of the agreement. This is the United States that has given up the agreement, discarded the agreement. So it should rejoin the agreement now first and prove that it's a trustworthy partner to any kind of deal. So they need to get back. To get back to the agreement, they first need to remove all the sanctions they have imposed on Iran in the past 4 years. Let's remember a couple of points. One very important point is that the sanction formula has a maximum efficiency period of 1.5 to 2 years. That's based on senior experts in the United States as well as former President Obama. So basically, this 2-year-long period of maximum efficiency ended last May. Even Bolton acknowledged that. So now their weapon of choice, the sanctions, are losing their maximum efficiency. It doesn't mean that they will zero down. I mean, their efficiency would zero down. No, but it's not at the peak. It's losing power. So the time is working on the side of Tehran because Tehran has just picked up its leverages. So Iran is finding a better and stronger hand if it waits. So there is a war of willpower on both sides, and time is working in Iran's interest, and Tehran knows that pretty well.
Saeed Mustafa, appreciate very much for joining us here on WION. WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.